Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be entitled A Time for Reflection. Let's reflect, shall we? I've produced well over 300 videos over the last year and a half, and it's been quite a journey, and I appreciate the comments and feedback from the audience, which helps polish and examine further things that were in the shadows and unknown. The reason that you may think my channels, I have 5 channels, is unique and different than the typical social media platforms is that the overwhelming amount of the information that I'm providing and my suppositions, since I do not know all of the particular facts and details and circumstances of all of these things going on in our modern world, is that I have a large base of personal experience throughout my life. And I'm not apologizing for that fact. It's not my fault that I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 1960s and was subjected to the Vietnam War and the protests against conscription, mandatory draft upon graduating from four-year university. And it's not my fault. It's not my fault that they had a Haight-Ashbury project, which included the amphetamines research project, and that they used the Hells Angels, which Sonny Barger just so happened to live not too far away from where I did in Oakland, California. It's not my fault. And it's not my fault that the media on the headlines of the newspapers, whereupon I was a paper boy, those newspaper headlines often read about peace riots in Berkeley, at University of California, Berkeley. It's not my fault that I knew that was a lie the moment it was printed. The moment that I opened my paper box, I knew there they were. You know, I'm barely 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old, and here's the newspaper people explaining that the broken windows on Telegraph Avenue and Adeline and Shattuck were caused by peace rioters, as if people were rioting for peace, which I knew they weren't. Those are the older sisters and brothers of many of my childhood friends, and they were not rioting for peace. In fact, they weren't rioting at all. The windows were broken by members of the City of Berkeley Police Department and University of California Security Police Department and clandestine soldier contractors. You know, somewhere within that group, that's who threw bricks through the windows. And I know that for a fact because a good friend of mine was a policeman for the city of Berkeley at that time. And decades later, he told me at 7 o'clock in the morning, the sergeant passed out 2 rolls of masking tape to every single Berkeley police officer, instructing them to go down to Shattuck Avenue and Telegraph Avenue and Adeline, parts of Adeline, and put X's, use the masking tape to put a big X in all the store front windows. And when my friend asked, well, why would we do that? You know, there hasn't been any violence the last 2 days of the demonstrations. And the sergeant smiled wryly, a wry smile, and looked at him and said, oh, today there's going to be some broken windows. Now, how would the sergeant at a municipal police department know that windows were going to be shattered, 5 to 6 hours before they were shattered? So, in other words, the riots in the city of Berkeley in 1967, 68, those were planned, orchestrated events, just like the People's Park was, just like Ronald Reagan and the National Guard being sent in with tear gas, blinding a person from San Jose and killing another. So I'm here to tell you that nothing in the media is truthful. And that is why my channel stands out, because I'm not basing my social engineering content on recycling what I heard on CNBC or CNN, the Communist News Channel, or the New York Times, or the New York Post, or the Washington Post, or the Los Angeles Times. I am not repeating their poppycock, which you'll notice in all social media, 99% of it is recycling what's in the mainstream media. And then people, injecting their personal opinions on it. I understand that. But that is a colossal waste of time because the basis for the posting is fraudulent. So your opinion on fraudulent news stories, fake news stories, is really quite irrelevant. Who cares? Who cares about transgender rights? Who cares about Black Lives Matter? Who cares about these wokeism themes? I mean, why don't you just go out and meet people? Because you'll find that, they said that you can't go to Mexico or Cabo San Lucas or Cancun or Acapulco, or you can't go to Central America because everyone's dying from COVID, right? Yeah, well, my brother went 6 times. Okay, they went to Guatemala, they went to Cancun, they went to Cabo San Lucas, they went to Acapulco, and guess what? No one was wearing face diapers. Nobody died. The only thing that was going on, in the last year was they're doing chemtrail dumpings over Mexico at beach resorts. So they're doing military chemtrail dumpings where people don't wear face diapers. And they're doing it all over the San Francisco Bay Area. And so anyway, what I wanted to say very quickly here is Erin Valente, told her mother before she signed off for the last time back in October 7th, 2019, before the COVID thing broke out. But while Meta Universe Control Labs was being sold to Facebook, which are all clandestine tool systems for promoting simulated reality, fakeness, or pacification and control, to waste your time, to waste the children's time, to burn up their time in the way of taking LSD could do, in the way that drinking too much beer and attending a steroid football game can do, in the way of wasting your time, so that the NATO forces can secure the perimeter and tighten the kill boxes, which are now have moved from Benedict Canyon and Laurel Canyon and Playa del Rey and Marina del Rey and Venice Beach and Muscle Beach, and there's still kill boxes there, and the Malibu Colony and Hidden Hills and Canoga Park and Encino, where Stephen Twitch Boss was murdered, half a block from where Phil Hartman was murdered. I find that a hell of a coincidence, near where Terry Kath of Chicago Transit Authority, where he was murdered in January 1978. Anyway, when you realize that today with the smart grid and the little blue caps on top of the LED streetlights and the boxes of electronic equipment switchers in the parks and the 5G towers on the perimeter of town, you realize that the kill box has been expanded to virtually all smart grid neighborhoods, all industrial parks, all colleges and universities, all high schools, all elementary schools. So in other words, they now have direct energy pulsing weaponry installed everywhere. Churches, schools, hospitals, everywhere. And everyone can be taken out really at any time. And they're building dossiers on every single person who uses a cell phone or a computer and has an email account. So what I'm saying is that Erin Valente's last words, it's all a game, it's a thought experiment, we're in the Matrix, that is accurate, but it only is the tip of the iceberg, which is the reality is we're going to techno-enslavement, prisoner planet status 24/7. And I had a woman comment on one of my posts regarding the Killbox video that I did, and she said, do these Hollywood people understand how dangerous it is in their neighborhoods? I just couldn't go through life smiling if I knew that I was in a kill box. And I commented back, well, are you aware that every residential community that has streetlights and has Amazon Ring cameras and has cell phone, mobile phone transponder access. If your cell phone works, you're in a kill box. That where you send your children to school, that's a kill box. Are you aware that when you go into a grocery store or a Walmart or an Amazon owned Whole Foods, that you're in a kill box? And I'm sure I shook her up because she is the clueless person that she's referring to. That's the matrix. You see, everybody thinks it's someone else's problem. Everyone's waiting for Ron DeSantis to ride in on a white horse and save you. And of course, we've established on my channel that Ron DeSantis is the naval intelligence military enemy of the people. So he's not going to save you. And neither was Ronald Reagan. And neither was Jimmy Carter, who also came from Navy intelligence. Okay? So Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Goldman Feinstein are not going to save you. And a democratic system of government is not going to save you. The only people who are going to save yourself is yourself and cohorts. What the government would probably call, a terrorist group. Anything that follows or deviates, anything that deviates from the narrative is domestic terrorism. That's applied linguistics because, of course, if you read the Constitution of the United States, you realize that the people are the government and the government is a servant of the people. But you see, they completely twisted around to where the government is the authority figure and that all of the citizens are essentially, prison inmates inside of a camp. That is the inversion of the Constitution, which I think we can say has been abandoned long ago. So once you realize and wake up, wake up, you'll know what the situation is. Now, the way that they pulled this trick off, it's a magic trick, it's black magic, is that they keep everybody busy or entertained. So either you're working hard to make money or you're watching steroid basketball games that are fixed, and you're watching steroid football games that are fixed, or steroid cycling games that are fixed, or you're watching steroid soccer, tennis, baseball with corked bats and corked balls and steroid players that are fixed. The strike zone can be the size of a peanut or it can be the size of a big screen TV set depending on who they want to hit a home run, right? Or who they want to get on base and which team they want to win the game. So I understand, people don't want to hear that things they believe in are fraudulent, but if you watch my channel, that's what we get. The Beatles were fake and fraudulent. Carol Klein King, she was fake and fraudulent. Can she sing? Yes. Can she play the piano? Yes. Did she write her own music? No. Is she some kind of a Mozart genius? No. She's a little Jewish girl from Greenwich Village, and she was selected out of hundreds of songwriters to be the front person for music that was undoubtedly written by dozens of other people, just like the Beatles and the Tavistock Institute. The difference between the Beatles and the Monkees is about 5 millimeters. And, Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra, they could sing, but they never went and presented themselves as singer-songwriters. They sang other people's songs. They played to other people's melodies. They didn't score their music. They added some personal preferences to how the music was delivered. And that's fine. But in the 60s, they wanted to, Hollywood and entertainment industry wanted to promote the concept of a singer-songwriter. So they gave you Neil Young, they gave you Carole King, they gave you Neil Sedaka, and they gave you Don McLean and American Pie. But that doesn't mean that those are legitimate presentations. Just like everything else, they're fake and fraudulent. Okay, you got CIA-controlled operators of the clubs on Sunset Boulevard. You got the same thing in Manhattan, New York, same thing in Chicago. All the distribution centers, New Orleans, Miami, they always have platforms to deliver the next trend. And whether it's Laurel Canyon created music or the Brill Building in Manhattan created music, it is all controlled music. It's social engineered. Anyway, the reason that they get away with these crimes of murder and social engineering and mayhem is that people are kept busy. Either they're entertained, they're drunk, they're on LSD, they're smoking weed, or they actually do believe all these lies. See, they're so busy they don't have time to think. So they just accept. It's what I call capitulation. It's pacification and control, which is capitulation. In other words, you give up doing your own personal research and you just accept what is being spoon fed into your brain through the radio, through magazines like Playboy, Penthouse, Hustler, Look magazine, Life magazine, Time magazine, Vogue magazine, Teen Vogue for the teenagers, Teen Vogue magazine, Mad magazine, which I thought Mad magazine was the most honest of all, written by older men, lampooning all of the hypocrisy that's delivered on the traditional media. So I was a big reader of Mad magazine. If you can possibly imagine that, Mad magazine was my favorite magazine. I liked the photographs in Life magazine, but I didn't necessarily believe their stories, which I've now found to be untrue, just like Walter Cronkite and the CBS Evening News. If you find any person who trusts Walter Cronkite or believes in him, just run away from that person. That is a mentally disabled individual. Anyone who worships at the altar of Walter Cronkite, who was really William Paley's bitch, if you don't understand that, or you don't understand John Wayne is the bitch for Wild Bill Donovan of the OSS, then you're mentally disabled, okay? John Wayne is a fake person. He's not a legitimate person. Ronald Reagan was very charming, but he was a fake. He's an actor, right? He's an actor. I met Ronald Reagan. He was very charming, but the thing is, he's not real. He's fake. Anyone that lives at 666 St. Cloud Road cannot be real, okay? 666 St. Cloud Road or 999 North Rodeo Gulch Road. You better not check in there. You get shot with a 38 caliber pistol and get dumped in the swimming pool along with your kitty cat and your 2 sons and your secretary and your wife. I'm not making this stuff up, people. Anyway, so my point of today's video is a time to reflect, because essentially 100% of everything that you read, heard on the radio, saw on television, saw in theaters with your favorite films is socially engineered poppycock content. There are elements to it that are emotional tearjerkers, of course. That's part of the formula. And part of the messages is truthful, but a whole bunch of it is geared to herd the sheep. It's geared to anchor bias and to create, boogeymen like the devil. That's why we have The Exorcist and all those vampire films. So you can always blame Satan for all of these crimes that are being committed. I can assure you that Satan did not murder Sharon Tate, and Satan did not kill Robert Kennedy or John Kennedy or Martin Luther King was not killed by Satan. He was killed by someone that was holding a loaded gun, all right? And a professional contractor. That's who killed him. And he's doing it for the money, and he's doing it because if he doesn't do it, someone else is. There's all these justifications for criminal activity. That's part of the formula, is to justify criminal acts. None of these people are ever prosecuted, and there's no court in the world that would prosecute military crimes. All right, and that includes Ron DeSantis, who's been accused of personally being involved in the torture of prisoners at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, detention center, United States Navy. So, anyway, has Ron DeSantis been convicted of torturing prisoners? No, of course not. He was a congressman and a fake governor, and he wants to be a fake president. So he's not going to be convicted of torturing innocent prisoners who are never arraigned, never charged with a crime, and then released after 12 to 13 years in a cage. That's Ron DeSantis working with people that are illegally detained for decades. Thanks for listening. Hit the like and subscribe. I am shadow banned, but basically today's theme to wrap up is just know that all the mass media platforms are lying. And that includes this platform too. This is a social engineered CIA or British intelligence surveilled platform. And the majority of content on this platform is going to be the rehashing of fake news stories and poppycock and the promotion of Satan. They always want to promote Satan. Satan is the scapegoat. See, if you focus on Satan, you're never going to round up the bankers who are funding all of these criminal activities. Okay, so the sooner we get past the boogeyman of Satan, the sooner you can get to cleaning up this mess, this cesspool, where we used to have a world of, it's always been this way. It's just basically I was unaware because we didn't have Judy Garland and her dog Toto, Dorothy Gale and her dog Toto, to pull back the curtain to reveal the fact that everything that I thought I believed in was a lie. All right, thanks for listening. Take care.